He's thrilled with that. He's gone past where I could grow it to. And I'm actually thrilled too because my kids are in that church, my grandkids, grandsons are in that church, Di and I are in that church. It's just exciting, it's fulfilling. Legacy. You want to leave something behind that reminds people of you, and it'll probably be just for a little while. Eventually, we'll all be forgotten. We were talking about this over dinner last night. The decline into obscurity will happen to us all. Very few people will live on multiple generations. Very few. Charles Spurgeon's sermons still get read today. They won't be reading my sermons 100 years from now. Trust me, no one will be doing that. But it's pretty rare for that. But you can produce a legacy that is recorded in heaven. That's the main place to get it recorded. Consistency. There's a sense that if you have a pipeline, the whole... It's one of my friends ringing me. Go away. It's probably bringing my phone up here. If you do that again, Matt, where have you gone? He's gone out the back to ring from the back. No, it wasn't you. Someone else. Consistency. If you have a leadership pipeline, you will produce consistently over the course of the years of ministry leaders. You'll just have a pipeline that will produce leaders year in, year out. And I also will explain the fact that this is not just simple and easy to do, it's laboriously hard, but you will consistently have leaders coming through your church if you have a pipeline approach to it. Oh, you guys are hot. Awesome. Why is it hard to develop leaders? Let's have a look at a bundle of reasons why it's hard to develop leaders. Time pressure. You have time pressure on you. As a pastor and church leader, you have limited time, and you may be thinking, I haven't got time to develop leaders. And also the people that you want to develop will tell you, I don't have time to be developed. All of us feel this time pressure. So it does come back to a prioritizing of it. People have options. People can choose to live under your leadership development People have options. People can choose whether they lean into a leadership development process or not. People have so many choices of what they can lean into today. Now the proliferation of online training and resources means they don't have to lean into your leadership development process or your pipeline as well. So it's hard. People can say, no, I'm okay, I'm already doing some stuff over here. People are selfish. It's a selfish-centered life, isn't it? People are into selfies. People, narcissistic tendencies are on the rise, I think. Definitely Instagram, I think, is part of the problem of that, is that it produces a selfie-centered life, a selfishness. It's all about me and what I want to do. So it makes it challenging. People have always been selfish, but I think there's an accentuation of that today that I think social media does amplify it. What's already there, but I think what you amplify tends to grow larger anyway. Lack of know-how. You might be sitting there going, I don't know how to build a leadership pipeline. I actually don't have the know-how. I don't know how to do it. Pain. Jesus had Judas. If you haven't had a Judas in your ministry yet, just hang around. I've been in ministry 40 years. I've had one major Judas, one seriously demolishing Judas. I don't want any more, but you're going to get one. There's going to be pain. There's people you're going to develop. I've seen people really rise under leadership development. I've seen people get the wobbles and even kind of ended up, I remember one couple I tried to develop ended up years later divorced and all sorts of pain out of that scenario. It is difficult. It's laborious. One of the reasons pastors, I think, retreat and pull back from doing leadership development and focus more on just ministry is because I think some of the pain of raising people up, and then they do dodgy things. Then they leave you without a word of thanks. And they go to another church and ghost you and don't reply to your emails and your phone calls, and you feel the pain of it. Does that happen in Victoria? Well, so the pain, so vital. Isn't it so good to be in a conference singing again? It's healing, isn't it? Just healing, singing together. That's why we need conference. We need to come and get healed. So the pain that we feel, that all of us feel in this process, gets healed so we can gird ourselves up and go again, because there's fruit in it. You lack of delegation skills. Talked a lot about this yesterday, but just touch on this. This is the biggest problem I've found in 10 years of consulting in the Australian church. I think it's the same problem in the Australian workplace, is people's inability to release others, people's inability to empower others, to focus on an outcomes-based process with their leaders. Too much micromanagement, too much interfering, too much, you're too slow doing that, give it back to me, I'll do that. Too much of that going on, that will disempower people, and people will step away from development if you disempower them. If they feel inadequate, if they feel not trusted, if they feel frustrated with your leadership style. And I encouraged the pastors in the session yesterday to actually, when you're feeling emotionally strong, ask the people around you, your team, ask them this question: how do I micromanage you? It's a horrible question. It's a great question. It's nasty. But be emotionally strong when you ask your wife, your spouse, anyone around you. Get some emotional strength, and don't ask them, do I? Because people may be Christian and polite and say, no, no, no. And they're lying their heads off. How do I micromanage you? And give them a day or two to think about it. And the answers will help you become a better developer of people. Because they'll tell you, and you go, man, I didn't realize that was upsetting you. Sure, I can back up a little bit. I'm good with that. Or they might point out your perfectionist tendencies, which no one in ministry ever has. But okay, next one, here we go. Okay, going to give you 10 genuine ways to recruit and develop more leaders. What happened to the other 17, John? I thought you had 27. I've kind of filtered them down to 10 for the purpose of the conference here, and I'll pretty well cover, pretty well what I'm going to cover, most of it, pretty well 95, 97% of it is in the book as well, so you can use that as your notes. Okay, let's jump into them. Number one, this is the mindset shift. This is the internal shift that comes out into external actions, is moving from ministry to leadership. Let me unpack that for you. This is a great thought from Dr. Ian Jagerman, a wonderful church planner in our movement up in Sydney, now retired, but a brilliant man of God. He's got some brilliant writings. If you want some good books to read about church leadership, Dr. Ian's books are definitely worth reading. And he has an insight about this that I think is so helpful for us, of the importance of to move from ministry to leadership. Let's keep going with the slides. Leadership versus ministry, and I want to show you the difference between these two. Ministry is actions that benefit people. Let's go next slide. So ministry is a whole range of things. It's leading a small group, it's counseling someone, it's pastoring someone, it's preaching. It's a whole range of things, greeting people on a door, playing an instrument, like this guy's been up here leading worship. Might be teaching in a revival college. I got the name right. Teaching in the college scenario. It's ministry. It's actions that benefit people, that build people, that help people follow Jesus and become like Jesus. Leadership is different. Leadership is actions that mobilize people to ministry. Ephesians 4, the purpose of apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, evangelists, is to equip the people of God to do ministry. So when you're in leadership mode, you're actually mobilizing people into a place of ministry. So what are some leadership activities? Mentoring people, coaching people, spending time developing in a group setting or one-on-one. It's defining values. It's thinking about values. It's vision casting. It's reflecting. It's taking an hour or two aside to think through, how's our church doing? What's the atmosphere like in our church? Who do I need to move out of a role? Who do I need to put into a role? Who is developing well? Who's not developing well? Who do I need to have an awkward conversation with? Who am I avoiding? What failure am I not facing? A lot of reflection like that. Evaluation. Let's have a look at our metrics. We don't want to because it's been a bit smashed by COVID, but I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to be courageous enough to lead myself to go, you know what? We used to be a church of 120. We're now 73. drats. But I'm going to be courageous enough to call that. That's what leaders do. No one likes doing that. I used to hate the great cull. You know, you cull the database. It's just horrible. I get someone else to do it. You cull it and don't tell me the results till eternity. But a courageous leader goes, no, I've got to front it. Let's have a look at it. Okay, that's what it is. Let's call it for what it is. If you're avoiding that, that is an indication of emotional health that needs to get built with self-care to a point of facing those things. Anyway, whole bundles of things that leaders do that ministers don't focus on. Ministry builds people. And this is Dr. Ian Jagelman's 6-word proverbs. One of those proverbs I wish I'd come up with, but I'll steal it and give him credit. Ministry builds people. Preaching builds people. Counseling, pastoral care builds people. Leadership builds churches. Ministry will have an impact on growth, but it has a limit and a lid on it where you have to do ministry. You don't stop. You never stop doing ministry, helping people grow in Christ, but also you have to add to it leadership as well, where you have a leadership focus. And if you're a pastor, one of the things you can do is look back through your diary and consider how much time you've given to ministry activities, how much time have you given to leadership activities. That's a bit of a scary audit to do, but it'll highlight to you what's going on in your world. Jesus did ministry and leadership. Luke chapter 7 and 8 are brilliant. Jesus is raising the widow's son. He's teaching the parable of the sower. He's calming a storm. He's restoring a demon-possessed man. I'm just skimming through Luke 7 and 8. He raised a dead girl. He heals a sick woman. And Luke chapter 9 is where he leadership. When Jesus had called the 12 together, he gave them power and authority to do all the things that he had just been doing. That's my paraphrase. Luke 7 and 8 is ministry, healing, preaching, discipling, developing, bringing people to faith, all that. But Luke 9 and 10 is a masterclass in how Jesus develops leaders. And he pulls 12 to him, begins to speak into their world, and he says, this is what I've done. You've seen it modeled. Now I'm going to reproduce myself 12 times. And later on, he reproduces himself 70 times. And then you get to the book of Acts, reproduced hundreds and then thousands of times. So focus on being a leader who does ministry, but also does leadership. Okay. Leaders build pipelines. Yes, amen. Good thought, John. Number 2, step 2 in our 10. We'll do 5 today. This afternoon, 5 tonight. Appoint a volunteers director. Now, some of you do not like the word volunteers. I get pushback on this, so let me just talk about this. I use the word volunteers, and we used it in our church, and I've got to tell you, everything I'm talking about today, we've done in our church. This is not theory. This is road-tested, proven ways to build a leadership pipeline. You can go to my church. You can see the leaders, the church planners we've produced over the decades of ministry. I've also road tested it and proven this in other churches over the last 10 years, where I've gotten other churches to build leadership pipelines based on what we worked out worked and what didn't work. This is one thing that I think can transform a church. Now, whether you call them a volunteers director or a serving director, don't get mad at me or hung up on the word volunteers, okay? I use the word volunteers because it's a very community-friendly word. It's very well acknowledged in our community that sporting clubs especially run on volunteers. A lot of community organisations run on volunteers, and volunteering is a high value in the Australian nation. You talk about Surf Lifesaving. I live near the beach in Perth, and Surf Lifesaving runs on volunteers. So I use the word volunteers. If you prefer serving, I'm more than happy with that. But I know some people do get seriously ticked off with me about it. But I have a particular set of skills. I love them anyway. Okay, appointing a volunteers director. Let's talk about it. Structure shapes culture. This is one of my isms. This is a little thing I made up. I think you can shape culture through structure. Every church, pretty well on the planet, has a pastor, someone who's, we'll call him a worship director, but someone who does this stuff, and a kids director. pretty well every church on the planet has those three areas. That's the structure of really small churches. Large churches have it and more. But you go down to a small church, they'll generally have something about singing, they'll have a pastor about preaching, they'll have something to look after the kids. True? That structure shapes the culture of that church. What I would recommend to you that in your church, you add to your structure at the equivalent of a worship director and a kids director, a volunteers or serving director at the same level of importance. Because your church only runs on people who put their hands up and say, you don't have to pay me, but I'll do stuff. True? If everyone stopped serving your church who doesn't get paid, what would happen to your church? It'd collapse. Just collapse. Yet, I find it bizarre because in our church we've had volunteers director for years. My wife filled the role for a huge number of years. And I find we don't have anything in our structure about having someone who facilitates all this stuff. So put it into your structure, and I'll talk a bit more about what they do and so on, but put it into your structure and put it up there equal to your kids director and worship director, and I'll show you how to put that all together in a little minute. But I think add to your structure. You can shape the culture of your church through your structure. It's a powerful way to actually shape culture. Okay. What do they do? Glad you asked. Do you have a job description? Glad you asked that too. Here we go. 4 things that a volunteer director does. First thing they do is they analyse volunteer involvement, and I'll talk a bit more about that as we go on today. They actually analyse who does what in the life of the church. Second thing they do is they really run and coordinate your annual recruitment drive, and I'm going to talk you through an annual recruitment drive today as well. Third thing they do is they look after the first serves. I'm going to talk more about that and unpack that as we go on. The fourth thing they do is they mobilise new people. I'm not going to talk much more about that, but the beauty of a volunteers director is that especially when you can kind of get above the 120, 130 size church where you actually have someone besides the pastor being the volunteer director, is that they keep an eye out on every new person coming through the door and starts to think, I'm going to connect with them from the view of how can I move them into some role of serving in the next 2 to 3 to 4 months. And it may be we just get them, help them with the supper, the cafe, the coffee. We get them maybe greeting. I remember when we had a Chinese girl come to our church, come from China, boarding with a family in our church, not a Christian, started coming to church because she wanted to get better at English. I come to church one day and she's on the door. She's on the inner auditorium doors, on the outer doors, in the doors, smiling, shaking people's hands, welcome to church, in her broken English and everything. I said, who did that? Oh, someone recruited her. Is she saved yet? No, we don't think so, but she's good. Okay, all right, whatever. She'll get saved. She keeps setting up the church. She got to sit through the service and greet on the way out. And she eventually gave her life to Christ. So just kind of moving people into a place. Don't put them in the kids' ministry. Second week they're there. Don't recruit people to your platform on their third week. Don't do that. But find someone. And that's what a volunteers director does. Let's keep going because I'll unpack more of those as we go. 2 essential qualities in a volunteers director. They're organised. So they like lists. Some of you love lists. You just even the thought of it, you're going, ooh, lists. Organised. Second thing is they're personable. They're relatable. They know how to smile. They know how to warm, especially new people. They know how to connect with them. They're the 2 aspects and aptitudes you're looking for with those. This is all in my book as well. Next step. Okay, so a few next steps that I want to encourage you to do. I want you pastors in your head now, create the position. Right, done. Beautiful. There you go. Ho-ho! You just changed the structure of your church. Worship director, kids director, serving director, volunteers director, right there. Create the position. If you're in a church, pastor of 100 or less, you become the volunteers director. Put the hat on yourself and then start praying like crazy for an assistant. Don't just start looking for someone because you can set the culture of it. If you're in a medium-sized church, larger church, that's the sort of role. I actually, in a medium-sized church, I tell people staff that. Pay them 3 or 4 hours a week and staff it you will not regret that. That money won't be a cost, it'll be an investment. Because serving people give more than non-serving people. That's a research fact. You can take that to the bank with the money. Serving people, lean in closer, build relationships, own the vision more than non-serving people. And what happens when people lean in? Their finance follows. So you get people serving, cost you a few hours a week to pay someone to do it. If you're an asset-rich, cash-rich, small church, pay someone to do this 2 or 3 hours a week. If you've got heaps of money in the bank, spend it on things that will help your church get healthier. And this, I'm very quiet in here. This will help your church get healthier. Second one there is pray. Pray for the person that you want. As you already restructured your church. How good is this? First session in the afternoon, you restructured your church. Now you begin to pray, Lord, I want that person. Jesus told us specifically, besides the Lord Prayer, to pray for 2 things. If you're in Jerusalem during the Great Tribulation, pray that it's not in winter. You guys can forget that prayer, okay? Unless you move to Israel. What else did he pray? Pray the Lord of the harvest for what? Laborers, workers, harvesters. Jesus didn't tell us to pray for many things. So you know what is a good thing to do? Is to get up on Sunday morning and say, hey church, we just restructured after the conference. We now have volunteers direct a role in the church, and we're praying right now for the Lord to fill this structural position. You do that for 6 Sundays in a row, the Lord will be saying, my goodness, they actually prayed something I told them to pray. Just do it. Do those sort of prayers in front of your church. Jesus, when he told them that in Matthew, the very next chapter is when he picked the 12. So Peter sent us saying, oh yeah, Lord, send laborers into the harvest field. Jesus goes, you're it, buddy. Anyway, take them. Yeah, and appoint someone. Pastor, appoint yourself for it. Set the structure, culture for it rather. Then appoint someone. Okay, there we go. Step 3, I think. Oh yeah. Understand the 5 levels of your leadership pipeline. Man, I thought the clock up there was just, thought I was running out of time. I feel a lot better now. Understand the 5 levels of your leadership pipeline. There are 5 levels of the leadership pipeline. Let me show you these. First one is the do nothing people. You don't have them in Victoria, but in West Australia, they're a plague. There are people in our churches that do nothing. Some do nothing because they have an arrest. Some have come from another church and they're burnt and they just need a healing place. Some are lazy. Just being honest. Some are sinful. Some have sin they feel guilty about. They don't want to step into the light. There's all sorts of reasons why. Some are hurt. Some just don't know how to put their hand up. I don't know who to talk to get involved. I play a guitar, but no one's asked me if I play a guitar. They're just wandering. So there's a bundle of people like that. Second level are the doers. These are greeters, musicians, youth workers, kids workers, baristas, Tim Tam giver-outers. There are all sorts of people who are doing things in your church. I call them the doers. The third level are the delegators. These are people who lead teams of doers. These are team leaders in your church. The fourth level are designers. These are department leaders who design systems, who design how to make people work together in various ways. And the fifth level I love are the pastors. They're called the dreamy ones. No, the dreamer, sorry. The dreamer. That's the pastor. You're a dreamer. You're a vision getter. You're a vision caster. You're the one who sees things, declares it to your church, prays it over your church. You're the one who gets that dream from the Lord. Oh, exciting. I had a great time in the worship today. The presence of God. And I'm going, Lord, just let me see. What do you want me to see? I'm enjoying this conference. This is good. It's just nice being back in a conference and take conference worship. Let's go, next slide. Oh, smaller church. In a smaller church, you probably don't have that delegator area. You have a designer, so you might have a kids leader who's leading a team of 2 leaders and you've got about 12 kids. And you don't need that middle area. You've just got the... As you grow that you need that other level coming in and slotting in there. So in a smaller church, it's a bit less complex, which is actually helpful in a smaller scenario. Okay, next step. Oh, this is great. I love it when pastors do this. Print out a list of all your adults. get 5 coloured pens and highlight all the different people in your church. Use the red for the do nothings because it might upset you a little bit. You get a bit. Get a colour for the doers, the delegators, the designers. And just doing that physically on a piece of paper, do it on a piece of paper, physically something in you will begin to shift at that point. Because you'll go, my goodness, we have way too many people not serving. What's that about, Lord? And you know what you're doing when you say that? You're being a leader. You're shifting into a leadership. Wow, okay. Hey, look at that. If I look at all my designers, they actually came up through the ranks. Wow. I actually have a pipeline already. You already have a leadership pipeline. You already built one. You've already got one. All I'm doing is helping you just make it more snazzier. Kind of make it more groovy, baby. I'm just making you see it in a different light. You already have a leadership pipeline, and then you can do different things with the pipeline because you realize that people who are serving on the door have different complexities to the people who are running your youth ministry. And the colours make it pop for you, and you realize how you approach them, how you work with them has got to be different. Because we make the mistake of putting all of our people who are serving in the room and we give them all one message and think it's going to work and help everybody. And that's not always the case. Sometimes it is, but it's not always the case. So spend some time doing that. It's a good little process. People I do it with just kind of enjoy the process because it highlights for you what's going on. Pray. Get that list of everybody who's not serving and pray over it for 2 weeks. Just keep it in front of you and every day pray over it. Lord, I'm just praying for these people. But you said to pray for labourers in the harvest field. Lord, these people, I want them serving in our church. Jesus, how can I help them get into the place of serving you? And then you start to on Sundays. I really like Pastor Bill was talking yesterday in a session about going around on Sundays morning with his antennas up, just aware of pastorally connecting with people. And you can do that on a Sunday morning. You wander around and you bump into someone and you don't call them Mr. Do Nothing. Oh, you're not doing anything, are you? No, you just kind of start talking to them, start sharing with them. And you got your heart for them. You're caring for them. This is ministry right now. This is caring for them because you might start talking about where previous church and, oh, you got a bit burnt. What happened? Tell me about it. Yeah, look, you just heal up. It's all good. Don't feel any pressure. Suddenly you can be a pastor shepherding that person. Then you find someone else who you know is just a bit kind of feels a bit inadequate, feels a bit timid, a bit uncertain. You can say, man, I think you could be really helpful helping out. And the media guys, they just need someone to run a few things for them. It's not a big job, no big responsibility. I think you'd be awesome at that. And suddenly you're encouraging. You're bringing strength to them. They're going, oh, really? Do you think so? I don't know if you've seen that little video of the little short rugby guy. It's a video out of England going around at the moment on social media. And this little guy, he's about 8. He's got his hands on the shoulders of his mate, and this kind of beautiful, kind of Yorkshire accent is telling this kid how brilliant he is as a rugby player. It's just gorgeous. This guy's just putting courage and strength into him, and you kind of want to stand up while you're watching and go, yeah, I can play rugby. This kid, you can do that to people who are doing nothing. And you pastor them and shepherd them into a role of service. You're not going to get everyone. You'll always have people in that column. It's okay. But you can reduce the number of them. And they find a role and they lean in. They love their church better and so on. If you're going to pray for them, pray for your other groups as well, because the Lord could highlight to you that person's doing great in that area of youth ministry. I actually think they could come into a real significant assistant leader role. That's leadership. You're starting to work the angles of where your people are at. It's wonderful. I love it. Oh, here we go. Number 4. Lead a recruitment campaign. Every year, run a recruitment campaign. Let me give you a whole bundle of stuff about this. Doing well for time. Awesome. Leaders, oh, that's another good slide. Purpose of a campaign drive, a drive to recruit people, is celebrate, inspire, and recruit. Three things when you run a recruitment campaign. You're not primarily out to recruit. You're primarily there to go, isn't it brilliant how people serve in our and word of tell some stories and inspire people. That's what you're after. And the cream on the cake is you recruit people into serving. You recruit people into other areas of serving. Because you have people sitting in your church who are a bit bored with what they're doing and they want something else. And a recruitment campaign can be the catalyst to shift them into another role. Key elements of a recruitment campaign: 2 or 3 weekends. In fact, that's not good enough, John. I reckon in COVID you need 4 weekends because people are coming irregularly. And also the 4th weekend, it's like when you do a fundraising campaign, missions campaign, financial campaign, is people go, oh, not turn up for a couple of weeks because they're asking for the cash. True? If you don't believe that, just, anyway, whatever. I know it happens. And people go, oh, yeah, it's been 3 weeks, we better go to church. I think we missed the program. Oh, yes, in the 4th week and you're doing mop-up. And you just harvesting. Harvest for 4 weeks when you run a campaign. Because you get people who come once a month, you'll get them one of the weeks. People who are avoiding the campaign, who know about it and going, I don't want to do that. They eventually come back to church and you do a mop-up and you pull them in. I would do a campaign. Any campaign I'd do now, I'd be doing 4 weeks. Have a preaching theme on serving for those 4 weeks. Get into the scriptures, teach the Bible about serving. Eventually, in the next 12 months, I think, pastors will need to ascertain when they move from healing people from the COVID pandemic into a call to sacrifice. And you'll know the right time, Pastor. You'll pick it. You'll go, you know what? We've done enough comfort and care and love. We've healed people up. Now listen, guys. Pick up your cross. Time to sacrifice. Time just to kind of get, you just kind of get a bit cruisy, bit lazy. Not now, but at the right time, pull that lever. Because otherwise, in 18 months' time, we're going to end up with a very sloppy church. That's just I'm still not well, Pastor. Nah, come on. Don't have to stay in hospital that long. Let's get you out of hospital. Let's get you into action. Serving stories, get people up and interview them. Generally, don't give people mics when they're doing testimonies. Interview them, hold the mic. That's great. Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming. Pro tip there for the newly appointed pastor. Here, share a testimony. 10 minutes later, you wrestle them to the ground to get the mic back off them. Serving stories, and because we're so used to looking at cameras, get them on video. Think, I can't do that, I can't get on the platform. That's cool. We'll just do an interview with the phone. Phone will be over there. You put the camera back a bit, zoom it in. Just do an interview with them. Show the video. Everyone's used to looking at the screens. It works easy. Unsung heroes. You know what's interesting? Titus is never mentioned in the book of Acts. Not sure why. One cheek. I've actually read that. I think it was Luke's brother. I don't mention my brother. Paul's favourite. He's not mentioned in the book of Acts. He's an unsung hero. We don't know about him because Paul wrote him a letter and mentioned him a lot in 2 Corinthians. I think there's 1, 2 other references. But they're unsung heroes. Put them on the platform. Do a little bit of shy embarrassment like, working out there in the kids' church. No one knows they're doing stuff in the kids' church. But you highlight them, maybe give them a bunch of flowers, thank them, that sort of stuff. And just unsung heroes. Actually, congregations love it, don't they? When you bring someone up who's not used to the platform and they're all a bit raw and shy and kind of embarrassed and hold the mic down here and kind of like, thank you. And everyone just kind of warms to it in Australia because we don't have a hero culture. We're not American here. I am awesome. That's not us. Pull that off in Australia, you're getting shot. It's true, isn't it? People want that raw, kind of timid, sort of, Our World War I hero is a guy who served in Gallipoli for a month with a donkey, carrying people. And he was a Pom. Simpson was English. Jumped ship, went to war, got shot after a month. In 4 years of war, that's our hero. That's Aussie. Tells you everything about our culture. He's a healing guy. Opportunity form. Now, you won't be able to see that. Sharp, very sharp. Thank you. Go back again. The way you do an altar call in a recruitment campaign is that you present an opportunity form that you give to people, and you can go back to the other one. People won't be able to read that. Sorry, I just thought I'd put it up there. And you get everyone in the room to hold, and I like paper for this, paper and pens. I like retro. Get everyone to hold the form with a pen, and every Sunday, get everyone to have a piece of paper and a pen and fill the form in. And that's your altar call. And spend and all your key leaders who are sitting around the place, tell them, this is where you got to be a leader and a bit bossy, I want you to fill it in every Sunday. Because if you're a church member and you haven't been there the previous week, and you look over and there's your board member sitting there, yeah, I did this last time, don't need to do it again. You know what the church member's going to do? Well, I won't bother. You know, Bill over there, he's not filling it in. So you kind of set yourself up for success here. You get everyone to fill it in, hand it in, and the opportunity form, if you can go forward a slide, another one. If you want this opportunity form, write that down, take a picture. I'll leave it up for a bit. bit.ly/GAHC template. You get onto my website, there's a blog post, and you can download it for free. I am so generous. Download it for free. I will have your email address then, and I have a particular set of skills. And I'll be in touch with you. No, my stuff is brilliant. It's never spam. Anyway, you want that opportunity template? You got to believe in your own material. If you don't, seriously, no one else will. Grab that opportunity form, and if you miss getting that little URL, get in touch with me. Happy to send it to you, even if you don't give me your email address. And it's just I pinched it from Riverview Church in Perth, great church in Perth, pinched it from them years ago. And it's the way that you give people an opportunity. The form is great because it gives them an opportunity to indicate whether they want to serve, brand new serving, whether they want to try something, whether they want to try something different. And then the killer one is a ripper. I don't want to do anything now, but call me in 3 months. And people tick it. Oh, this is my out. Looks like I'm filling the form in. And you ring them in 3 months. Oh, remember that form you filled in? I'm calling, baby. That's what your volunteers director does. Have something after the service that they can connect with. Train your volunteers how to recruit. Tap on the shoulder, better than a shot from the pulpit. Recruit people, how to recruit their friends to come alongside and help them. People like serving with friends. They like serving with someone that they already know, and you can kind of help that whole process through your recruitment campaign. Make sure the 4 weeks you're discussing serving in your small groups. Just about wrapping it up. Maximizing the recruitment campaign. I think we'll do that tonight. We'll get through the rest tonight. Amen. There you go. Up us two. Done. Bless you.